What's up, manifestation queens? This is your manifesty bestie. And you know what? The universe loves when we help each other out. So you've got to help a gal out. If you like my vibe, then please subscribe, rate, and review. But I'm not going to ask you to do this for nothing. No, I'm not. When you subscribe, you are going to do it manifestation style. You're going to subscribe and say, I am subscribing to my best life. And when you hit the 5 stars, say to yourself, 5-star life for me, because no manifestation queen wants a 4-star life. So thank you, queens. What's up, manifestation queens? I am here with another manifestation queen, Louise Dunne. What's up, Louise?
Hi, Yvonne. Thanks so much for having me.
I love, just before we came on, Louise said, life's a pitch.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely is, especially if you've ever had any kind of startup. That's what your life becomes. A pitch. A hustle.
A hustle.
Yeah.
A hustler. Yeah, and I think that's why sometimes I've recently saw on like Instagram and stuff, people are saying, oh, if you're struggling with manifestation, if you're like, you know, working hard, you're not doing it right. And I just disagree with that. I think like you need a little bit of hustle and get up and go and being able to do it. You know, you're not going to just sit back, relax and get an investment in your company.
No, and I think, say with the manifestation piece, I think that's what people sort of get mixed up in, because like there's so much like huge information out there. And I think what like you've done really well actually is the steps. So like the hustle part was the action part.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you can't wish something in. Well, you can, but like writing it down and actually seeing what you say helps you understand what you believe. So I've always kind of been someone, I didn't know I was manifesting when I was doing this, but I used to write stuff down all the time that would happen in the company, and it would happen. But I didn't know that that's sort of what I was doing. But it was also, you know, there was action items in there as well. But yeah, I used to do stuff like that before I knew more about it.
Yeah, and Dua Lipa, did you see that in Glastonbury? She was on stage talking about how she manifested being there on the specific night. She wrote it down and she was specific, and I just loved that. I was like, see, you have to write it down.
You have to write it down. And do you think as well that you have to be exact, like, you know, this, you know, in July I want to have this amount of money in my bank? Do you think you have to be really that specific as well?
I don't like putting timelines on things.
Right.
I think you need to let it go. I always say, when I let it go, my life will flow. Because when you put a timeline on it, like obviously you need to have goals. Like I'd like to get here in 2025, I'd like to be, I don't know, let's say at Wellfest doing another talk. Like, let's just give an example, right? Mm-hmm. But if you say, I would like to be married by this age, have a baby by this age, have investment by this stage, what happens is you start to like hold on to it and you're like, it needs to happen. And then it's not happening because you're holding on to it. You're not able to let it go. So I always think, don't push a when. So in the steps, the 7 steps, what do you want? Why do you want it? What do you see, hear, feel? What action are you going to take? What are you grateful for? There's no how. How is just take the steps and do the action, and there's no when.
Okay.
Anyway, back to you. You started in makeup.
I did.
And how did you transition from makeup to a tech? Effectively, tell us about Glissed. But, well, it was pucker, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So
tell us what it is and what it was and how you started it.
Okay. So I'm a makeup artist. I'm doing makeup 20 years, showing my age now. But started out in MAC in BT, and I, you know, was working there, and then I was there for about 10 years, and it was amazing. You know, made the most like best friends that I still have around in my life. And after that, I just kind of got a bit like fed up, like working on the counter. Like it kind of has retail has a shelf life for you. And I always felt as well, you know, I sort of wanted to do more. I always had that like, I was very like entrepreneurial as a kid. Like I found a copybook recently, and it was I'll show you. It was like me writing down that I was doing braids for like 20p on the road for girls, and I was the manager, and my 2 friends were like the workers or something, and I was the manager.
You were the boss.
Yeah, I was the boss. But you know, I kind of felt like I wanted to move on, and it was a hard decision at the time, but I took like a step away, and I started lecturing the makeup artistry, and it was there where I met my business partner, and we basically were like, okay, there's something sort of broken in this system. Like, we're training all these people on how to do makeup, but they want to be freelance, but we're sending them back to the counters. Like, I wonder, is there a way where we could help freelance beauty professionals formalize their offering? So, like, the freelance industry already existed, but that was our goal, was that we wanted to help the customer to book and pay securely, and help freelancers, like, give them a shop window. Like, Instagram wasn't as popular as it is, 10 years ago when we would have started. And we didn't know anything about technology. We started to research, and we saw a company in the States, and they had raised 20 million. Like, we hadn't a clue about what that even meant, really. It was, so we started going to, like, every single tech event that was on in Dublin city centre. I was like, what is this world that you get pizza and wine for free, and you can go to a talk, and you're actually meeting everybody, and people are so willing, like, to give you information. And I just loved it. And it was it was born out of our own frustration. Like, I was the makeup artist that wanted more freelance work, and she was like the customer who wanted to get her hair or her makeup done to her house, and sort of didn't know where to find people. Like, where do you go? Do you Google it? Do you look on, like, on all these, like, non-vetted or non-trusted platforms were available? So we were like, let's make one. So we started the business on a WhatsApp group, and we grew it to the biggest database of beauty professionals in Ireland. And we went from there, we moved into an office, like a co-working space first. And in that co-working space was lots of startups that were ahead of us. So they would have raised money. They would have, they were, an amazing support to us, and were always, we're always helping us, apply for this grant, apply for this fund, talk to this person. So we really threw ourselves into it. And
but you said to me before, I think you didn't even have a laptop.
No, I didn't have a laptop. I'm a makeup artist. Why would I need that? I had, like, it's amazing what you learn. Like, so,
But I think maybe a key point here is that you didn't know how to start.
No.
You just started.
Yeah.
You just started to figure.
Yeah.
I think if you're passionate about something, you will figure it out.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, in terms of, I think there's one thing to say, just kind of around, like, people coming up with ideas as well. Like, the fact that there was another company that had raised 20 million in the States, and they had started around the same time as us, we were like, oh, who are they and all. That's the most amazing validation. The market exists. That is everybody has competitors. And to show that a company is doing this well in the States was actually quite a good thing that we learned, at the time. But when you're starting out, like, there's loads of, like, people to be afraid to tell you your idea and stuff like that in case they're going to rob it. Like, they're not going to, like, come on, like, that's always a myth around, like, but yeah, like, so, we just went from there.
But how did you get the tech platform? Because ultimately, this is a tech platform.
Yeah,
You're both in makeup, right?
Yes.
So you don't have a tech background.
Well, Niamh was in sales and marketing, and she was and then I was the makeup artist, so I had the domain expertise. But, like, it was like we were two sides of the platform. One, we were a double-sided marketplace. One was the customer, one was the makeup artist. So we had both. Yeah. So, like, so we decided. So this was something, and I would say this to other entrepreneurs as well. Like, at the time, I felt like a bit like embarrassed that I didn't know about technology, but actually it was my best asset, because we started building a product based on what was happening in a WhatsApp group. So we were like, okay, we know if we put a job, let's say, we put up a landing page, right? And we used my personal network. We're like, do you want to join this? And, for free. First of all, like, so we asked all the makeup artists that I knew and hairstylists, and we're like, will you join this? We're just trying to grow a community. So everyone was like, yeah, it's for nothing. Like, I mean, this is great. And people were sharing it, and we were, growing our following on Facebook. And we started interviewing, bringing them into the office, and started talking. We're like, what's your biggest problem? What do you need? So when we were able to do some research, we got, better at product market fit.
It's free research as well.
Yeah.
I spent 20 grand on market research.
Yvonne, I love the research part, and I've never spent anything on the research part. I used to ask people, come into the office, like, give them, we get food or coffee. Or, or a gin sometimes.
I think one of the key things here, and it's a lesson that I need to learn in business. So, and my husband always says to me, Yvonne, you're talented at spending money, right? So because I have a corporate job that funds me, it can fund the company. So I just throw money at what I think money needs to be thrown at, as opposed to thinking, okay, you've only got this budget. You've got to work with it. And I think you can be so creative. People think you need loads of money to start a business. You didn't
I had
have
none. I literally had no money. I had no job. So this became my job. So I was doing a bit of freelance makeup at the weekend, and the rest of the week I was in the office. You know, we were surveying, we were researching, we were, putting landing pages together. Like that's the thing about a co-working space and the support, because like someone is there who's an expert in something that you're not, and they're like, oh, do you know what you could do here to make that a bit easier? Or do you know there's this tool, or have you tried this? So,
Did you have to pay for that space? Because usually those spaces are expensive.
No, at the time we didn't. It was Gene Murphy, who's like a big startup king. He's like good friend of mine, and he actually created like an incubator in what was it was on Waterloo Road, and it was there, and we pitched to get in, and he gave us a space, so we had so we didn't have to pay, and so like it was but there was all these startups there. It was amazing actually. So that was something really good that happened to us, because we were able to learn so much from the other companies that were ahead of us, that had gone to NDRC. They had been through accelerator programs. So, but we didn't pay for anything, like as in we like landing pages to be put together, but we concierged so much of that business. The customer possibly thought it was automated, but we didn't. We were, can you do this job? Text that person. And also stuff like, it was in a WhatsApp group, right? That didn't work. We knew that makeup artists, we just write to them individually in a text, for example, and see how long it took them to respond. And then if that person doesn't, because we had to kind of figure out, like, how long do we even say, like the company in New York, we're able to get you a booking in 48 hours. We were like, oh, we'll try and do it in 24. No, there's a reason that's 48 hours, because we needed to like ask if like send it out to a few people and see who would pick up the job.
So is it
all of this
kind
stuff.
of like the Uber of beauty?
It was, yeah. It was way before its time actually. It was like the Uber of beauty, or kind of like an Airbnb for hair and makeup. Yeah, so you could pick the person that you wanted, and if they weren't free, it went out to like a group of people, and that's the technology we built, Yvonne. And that was based on what we were doing without tech, and we knew how long it would take them to write back. We became great at product, even though we didn't know.
And what happened then when like you got an award for this and everything? Didn't
Yeah.
you, what? Well, first of all, you started with the name Pucker.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Well, we can all imagine what happened there. So was that
Pucker? Do you know what that means?
to puck your lips?
Yes, to pucker up, right?
Yeah,
That's
to
what
pucker up. Yeah.
So it's meant to be like pucker up, to put your lipstick on was the idea, right? That's what it. So I remember, like, I don't know whether it's my accent or what, but we were at the Web Summit and we were like, yeah, it's called Pucker, and it's beauty appointments to the home, the office, or hotel. And they were like, you're sending who to people's office, homes, and hotel? They thought we were saying hooker, and like, and we were like, no, it's Pucker.
Oh, I thought you were going to say fucker.
Yeah, so there's that as well. So it just wasn't working.
So they thought you were saying we're going
Yeah.
to send hookers.
Yeah.
So you went to Web Summit.
Yeah, Neve spoke on the main stage actually. We were so immersed in it all. Yeah, we were this was Web Summit in Ireland, by the way. So it was when it was still in the RDS. But we were always there, and we were doing pitching every night of the week at one stage. We were always pitching for things. We were always meeting investors. We wanted to raise money, and it wasn't like there was loads of no's, and then yeses started to come together. Because
How do you start getting an investor? Like, where did you start with that? Did you have a pitch deck? Or what was it?
Well, intros was like somebody. So I think with the investment circuit, like, there's different types of investors. So you'd have like an angel investor who would like be someone who would be high net worth, who might invest in like, lots of different companies, and they may or may not be involved. Like that's all, it depends on the relationship. And then you'd have like the VC. So generally speaking, like the venture capital, like they will invest like at a later stage in your business. So we were like super early, but the thing with Glissed was that we were making money. We made money straight away. It was like, that's like
what was the how did Glissed make money? Did you get a percentage of the fee? Is that the way it worked?
So at the start, we pivoted this loads of times, and also that's what I would also say to other entrepreneurs, like, don't be afraid to change something up if it's not really working. So we initially charged the beauty professionals to be on. Right, so we had a subscription service, and then we also took a percentage of the booking. But then, things like if the same people were picking up the jobs all the time, then other people possibly didn't see the value of being on it, and they kind of were looking at us like an agency. We were like, we're not an agency, we're a platform. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we're like, if you weren't paying, like, you might get one wedding off us a year and that will cover your subscription for a year. Do you know what I mean? Where other people were picking up jobs all the time, and then we took a percentage of the booking fee, but then we got rid of the subscription for the beauty professionals, and we just left it at the, like, let's just manage the consumer side. But that percentage, when you take away like your, you know, your VAT, and you take away your, you know, like your Stripe fee and everything else, you're left with very little. So like, you really have to scale that marketplace. And I, you know, like,
there's so many hidden costs.
Oh, yeah.
What was the so for example, I'm just thinking with my brain of like, how could the makeup artist get around this? Can they potentially, could they go on the site, make the booking, tell the customer, cancel that booking, you cancel that booking and I'll do it for you for X price, but I'll still come to you. Could that happen?
Yeah.
And did it happen?
No, like, as in, so what we did was, it wasn't a problem for us. So like, we basically made them sign up to terms and conditions, and we're like, you can't solicit the clients that are on this, you know, they're coming through this. And if we know that you have, then like, you're off the platform forever, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we were like, how many, you know, so it was sort of, you know, also as well, like, in terms of, we also learned that it wasn't for every beauty professional. There was people who were really, really busy and they were happy doing their weddings and they're in the industry 20 years. They didn't really, like, they were, you know, it was, you know, might have a job here and there. It was sort of, and then there was people who were sort of influencers, which everybody wanted to book, but they didn't really do that much makeup anymore. Do you know what I mean? Even though that's what they were promoting. So there was kind of like, you know, we had to do a lot of profiling actually on who really was our ideal makeup artist or hairstylist to be on the platform, who was available for work, you know, agreed with the rates and all of that. So, you know,
and then they would effectively, God, my legal brain just jumps into absolutely everything. Then they would potentially attend their home. Was there ever any issues, like people showing up not to do, you know?
Yeah.
And what happens then? Like, what's the liability? Like,
it was a pain, to be honest. Like, I mean, this is the thing. Like, where does the liability fall? Is it with us? Or is it with that person? Do you know what I mean? If that person didn't show up, is it our fault that we didn't vet them correctly? Like, or is it our fault? Or what, you know, sometimes shit happens. Like, maybe something happened that day and they couldn't go, and we would be scrambling around trying to get the person somebody else. And a lot of time we did, but there was times where something happened and unfortunately we'd have to refund that person. And
or you get a bad review. Would you get a bad review?
No, we never got a bad review, because we always try to, you know, manage that. Like, we would give them a refund, obviously, and then we would offer them something else, you know. At another time we'd give them a service for free. You know, that's all we could do, like, because stuff does happen. And I met a CEO of a competitor in the UK, and they were at much larger scale than I was, and, like, you know, because they were a bigger company, this stuff happened all of the time with his company, but like, he never dealt with it really, because it was just bigger, so he had like lots more, you know, people working in the business. But the same problems exist everywhere with that type of marketplace. Do you know, you can't just stamp that out. You know, it's going to happen, because stuff happens in life that you just can't predict.
Dealing with people. That's the reality. And when you're dealing with people are going to complain. They're going to get upset. Life happens. Things happen. So, but it is a headache in some ways. But if you have a large enough market, it'll drown out those odd kind of complaints or whatever.
Totally. I mean, like, like, you know, Airbnbs, like, you know, like there's any type of double-sided marketplace, there's going to be problems. But I guess it's how you manage that, and how, you know, and the bigger your team are, like, obviously, you know, you can have people just purely on damage control, customer service. But like, when you're a small startup and you don't have loads of money, like, you're doing everything all the time. You're every department for a while, you know. So you have to,
So how did you get the investment? Was it male dominated when you were going out looking for money? Like, you're looking for money from men in beauty that they don't know anything about beauty, typically.
Yes, and yeah, I did come up against it a bit, like, because obviously I came from the beauty industry as well, like, where I did feel that, you know, often investors might go home and be telling their wives and their girlfriends more about, like, is this cool? Would you use this? As opposed to, like, well, look at our numbers. Now, they were doing that too, but I felt a bit like that, you know, around that time. I was like, did they, you know, as if like, you know, it's beauty and it wasn't as cool as, I don't know, drones or something else. But this is the thing, like it was something like that already existed. We weren't reinventing the wheel with Glissed. It already existed. We were just helping freelancers formalize their offering, and you know, and doing beauty appointments in the house, you know, in the home or office or whatever, wherever it was, on, you know, on location. And that's what we did. We brought the salon to you.
If you want to manifest your dream life, then what are you waiting for? Pause Penny has created an amazing manifestation box to help you manifest your dreams. It is backed by neuroscience. 7 simple steps, and the box tells you how to do it all. Grab your manifestation box at pausepenny.com and use the code podcast20 for 20% off. Yeah, which I think is a great, like even now when I could see it as a mom with kids and wanting to get your hair or makeup or whatever done, you just want someone to come to your house because you don't have time to, or you could do it before the kids get up, or it is a great idea. It might have, like you said, been a little bit before its time.
We actually, so I used 3 scenarios there's like in a pitch that I did, and like one of them was a busy mom, right? It was a scenario where like this could work, and also because we worked out of salon hours, so that was the other thing as well. But so you know, but it's those types of businesses, they need a lot of money. They need a lot of money to really scale, and it often was said to me, like, get out of Ireland with this, and never a truer word spoken. Like, the market in Ireland was just too small, even though we had the market share, but it's just really small. Hard to make something like that work with the revenue, with the percentage, when you come down to your bottom line.
And in order to go global, you need that investment. But you did get investment.
We did.
And how long did it take you to kind of pitch and get investment?
So, we had the company for, I'm going to say it was around, I think it was 3 years maybe before we got our first investment. So we got angel investment, and at the same time we got into an accelerator, NDRC. So we had pitched, so this is what I'm talking about. It was third time lucky we got into NDRC, and at the time there was a competition and we went on to win. Like, out of 30 companies there was 2 winners. That's something I wrote down actually.
To manifest.
I wrote down that Glissed was a winner, and I could still, I'm telling you, anyone that was in my cohort that year, right, all of us could recite the pitches that we did that day on Investor Day. We knew them off by heart. We were like practicing like morning, noon and night.
And who are you pitching to? Just lots of investors?
Investors. There was 500 people.
Are they Irish or?
Yeah, a mix, but it was quite a big thing at the time. Like, and you know, it was like an evening pitches, and there was like 500 people, and that was so we had to, you know, it was a really big deal. It was actually, I'm gonna be honest, it was one of the best days of my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because we'd also been through. So at the time, so we got an angel investment, and we also got Enterprise Ireland investment at the same time.
Wow.
And you know, unfortunately, it didn't work out with the investors the way we would have hoped, and we ended up having to buy them out, and we ended up with a massive legal bill. And to this day, like, it was really hard to it was hard financially for the company to recover. It was hard emotionally for me and Neve. And we'd put everything into that business, absolutely everything. And even though we had won this thing, people were interested, they wanted to talk to us, we just wanted to get on with it. And it was really hard for us. And we were kind of left with nothing after that. It was like we were starting all over again, you know? And
so you had to buy them out, and you had this massive legal bill.
Yeah, huge.
So you just literally have no money.
Nothing.
Did you say to me before, was that around the time that you went for coffee with somebody and you didn't even know if you had the money to pay for it?
Yeah, I didn't have
and listen,
the money
you're
to pay
like
for
getting all these awards.
Yeah.
And people think, oh my God, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
And that's why, like, I would love to be, you know, I coach entrepreneurs, and I want to design, there's loads of mentors in the entrepreneur space. There's not loads of coaches, and I would love to be able to help me back then. Yeah. And actually, you know, because show me anybody that makes good decisions when you're high as a kite on cortisol, when you are stressed, because that is what's going on. And it was so shit, Yvonne, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Fucking was because it was just like we worked so hard to get to that point, and it was just like slipped through our fingers because we didn't have the money, the invest, like, you know.
It's just effectively what you're saying is
Yeah.
your relationship with your specific investor wasn't, maybe weren't aligned on strategy or something like that, let's say. And then what would you recommend to people like that are getting investors now, like really, because the thing is right, a lot of people that go out for money need it and want it. So they're like, just give me the money, I need the money. But I guess it's like choosing your partner in life. You've got to choose wisely because they need to be aligned and have the same values.
You're a lawyer, so you know a marriage is a contract.
Yeah.
So also is an investment as a contract, so you have to be careful who you're getting into bed with in that respect as well. So you need to do, like, it does, I think, to be honest, I think sophisticated investors, and I think there is lots of great investors in Dublin, you know, this is just what happened to us. And I think that, you know, I think it's really important to understand. So people would have said that, just don't get investment when you're desperate. Well, like, I don't have any money and I'm working. So like, what tell me how to not, like, it seemed that this was a great decision. I suppose, you know, I think what's important for, you know, startups and for people looking for investments, like, you know, get like really good advice, and I talk to other companies that have had investment. I think due diligence is really important on the type of investor that they are. Like, do they want to be involved? Are they going to sit back? Will they take reports off you every 3 months? Like, when do you have meetings? When, like, you know, all of that stuff is really, really important about how you manage the relationship. Like, it's not really their job to lie in bed at night worrying about the company. Like, that's the CEO's job. But like, it's your relationship has to be really solid, like a good foundation. You know,
if you were to do it again though, Louise, like, let's say you were to do it again, the business was making money, do you think it would have lasted had you not gotten that investment? Because you just would have, you know, do you look back and think, I would never say regrets, because I think it's such a good learning, like, it's, you know, you're learning. So, but like, would you be reluctant to get investment again, or do you just think it depends?
Well, that business needed investment because it was scaling a marketplace. So you need to build technology, and, you know, it's hard, like, it's what they call in a lifestyle business if you didn't have investment, you know. But there's nothing wrong with a lifestyle business. So as in, like, I think the best businesses run on sales. You don't need investment. If you're making a living and you can manage your life, and your business is producing a salary for you every month, you're onto a winner. That's amazing. You don't always have to go global. You know, you don't have to do all of that stuff if you're making a living and it's your thing, and you're up to date with all you're compliant, you're doing great. You know, that's a really good spot to be in. But a lot of the tech businesses, you know, they kind of start out, they mightn't, it's depending on the type of business, but they mightn't make money for a year, and they'll have investment, you know, because they can see the roadmap, you can see the pipeline, you can see what's coming, and you can see what, you know, sort of innovative technology it might be, or that, and, you know, so it really depends on the business. But that business needed investment to actually grow, and also to look, you know, to use the competitors, like, as an example, like, they were raising 20 million, another 20 million.
Are they still around?
They are. Yeah, but I think they've swapped out a few CEOs, all right, but they are still around. The concept works.
Yeah, and I still think it works. I really still think it. But now so now you're this beauty entrepreneur, you've got investment, you're in all the programs, you're winning left, right and center, but in reality, behind the scenes, an investment isn't working out, you're buying them out, you have a massive legal bill, and you feel like absolute fucking shit.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Enter stage left Primark. So what happened was, I got an intro.
Well, you have a big beauty database.
Yes.
So that's a good...
The biggest in Ireland. So but I didn't even, like, I was like, what is this, you know? So, you know, my business partner, you know, and it was the right thing. Like, she was like, I want a job. I want a salary. I was like, 100%, but I want to continue with this. So, we had a good divorce. Like, you know, me and Niamh built something amazing together, and it's always going to be like a very important and significant part of my, I'm emotional now, part of my life, like what we did, you know. And I couldn't see it for so long, like how what we did was actually so good, you know. But anyway, she was like, and I totally get it. She was like, you know, want a job. So basically, I was like, I felt like I still had it in me to just keep going. And another friend in startups made me, Lucinda, she made an intro to Primark. And I was like, well, I have the biggest database in Ireland. I can put a salon in here. And I did that. And, you know, it was like one of the most busiest, amazing, stressful, fun, exciting times of my whole life putting that together. I broke my ankle, and when I was about to sign the contracts, and the next day I didn't know, I knew I fell, but I didn't know it was broken. So the next day I actually like was, you know, doing interviews, like, and my housemate said to me at the time, I think your ankle is broken. I was like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. It was like I didn't feel the pain, right? Because I was just so busy. I have to get this done, I have to get this done. And
well,
then,
you're going, hold on. Let's just take a step back here. You're going in to Primark, creating a massive space for like a hair salon and a makeup desk.
Yeah.
Like the Primark on O'Connell Street or Henry Street?
The flagship store.
The flat, like...
Yeah.
Like,
PS by Glissed.
Like, how the hell did you even get in there?
So I got
did you say from that interview?
From my friend.
Connection.
Yeah, from my friend. She
all
was
about
working,
connections.
she was doing stuff, and she introed me. But like at the end, it was so where I was with Glissed, I was like, okay, we've nothing left. Like it was me and the company. Then I was like, what do I do? I was like, I need something good to happen, and she introed me to them, and I went, I know what to do.
But
here.
did you shut down Glissed in the sense?
No.
Did you stop? You let it keep rolling on?
Yeah, but that whoa. Now that's where it got really hard, because it was like managing two businesses. Now I had a salon in a store and a broken ankle and 25 staff. And then I had a couple of people in the office as well. Like I had a team of 27 at one stage. I had people in the office trying to manage the beauty appointments. Like it was chaotic. And, you know, so I went to hospital and I got an x-ray, and I remember messaging one of my startup friends, and I was like, they're going to think I'm weak, that I broke my ankle, or they're not going to let me sign. Like crazy. Like that's where the mind was. Like what? Like I was opening a store with a broken ankle. That's good. I mean, I wasn't giving up, but like I was like, oh, I can't believe this. Like, but anyway, I was just so...
The mindset
was mad. Like, because I knew when I opened, like it was going to be fine. But like, look, you know, it was, you know, it had such potential, but, you know, unfortunately that didn't do as well as I would have hoped. And, you know, hair and makeup just doesn't work in a store. Nails and eyebrows work really well. I didn't have that service. Hair and makeup, we were doing like 90% of the business in 3 days, and the rest of the days I was picking up losses. And we'd gotten so much press. It was such an exciting time, that opening day. And I remember there was fuck all people showed up to get their hair and their makeup done. I had hundreds of bookings, right? People just didn't turn up. And I was just like, oh my God.
And did they have to make any payment before to shut?
No. Oh, listen, no.
Were they paying in?
Yes.
Were they supposed to pay you?
No, they paid when on the till. Like they booked with me. Now I was like I'm building my own booking engine, which I did. So this was just before GDPR, but I had everyone sign up to GDPR. So to make a booking with me, sorry, not with me, but with Glissed at Primark, you needed to sign up by email. Right. Yeah. So I was, you know, and they ticked a box whether they wanted to stay in touch. So I was actually still growing a customer base as well. And that was my software. Like that was software that was belonged to Glissed. So that was the way you booked if you wanted to book online, but you could also just walk in as well. But any transactions, you didn't pay online, you paid there in the store. But yeah, it was just, unfortunately, you couldn't have predicted it. Like it's one of the biggest retailers in the world and one of the busiest streets in the country. Like you couldn't have predicted that we were only going to be busy on 3 days when there is
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is it?
Yeah. When there's people in that store. But look, this is what I'll say about hair and makeup. It's not a maintenance service. Like people get their nails done any day of the week. You can go in your tracksuit, get your nails done. You don't have to be going anywhere that night. Same with eyebrows. You get your makeup or your hair done, you're probably going out that day. Do you know what I mean?
It's totally true. It's something that I would never think about. No. I get my random day. I'm like, oh, let me just get my nail. I got my nails done recently on a Sunday afternoon. I was like, the kids are asleep. I'm going to pop down, get my nails done. But I wouldn't get my hair done on a Sunday.
No.
So I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Nobody's going to see me.
And it was so like, oh, do you know what? Like it was so tough as well. Because,
did you have like sorry, I interrupted there. Did you have like statistics of like, I need to meet these thresholds, and you're starting to realize you're not meeting them?
Yes. So I worked in the salon every day for free because at least I could do the makeup, and I learned how to do hair as well. I could braid and everything by the end, but because I couldn't, you know, and obviously then, you know, we had to sort of like minimize the team. We also got a smaller space, but look, it was massive lesson learned, like, but unfortunately, you know, I was the person that was left burnt out and broken after it. And you know, but do you know what though, like I always say this, like, you know, then the pandemic happened and I loved lockdown because I was able to just, I was really struggling. You know, I lost the worst thing about it because I was Louise Dunne Glissed, award-winning entrepreneur, 2-time award-winning entrepreneur. That was like my name. I'm Louise Dunne Glissed all the time. It was like, no, I'm actually just Louise Dunne. Okay, that's okay that didn't work out. But when lockdown happened, I was able to deal with it because I had that space because everybody was closing their businesses. So I was able to sort of like, I felt ashamed, you know, that it didn't work out and I'd let people down. And I was just like, how do I deal with this? But actually, the best thing that I done was to start just dealing with it. And then I was able to heal from it, you know, and then I was able to, you know, be okay with it. And like everyone was gone, everyone was shutting down their business, everyone was struggling. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just me. And
we also don't really know what's really going on in businesses behind the scene. They're getting awards, they're getting investment, they're getting this and they're getting that, but they don't know, look, there's litigation with their investors. There's, you know, a standstill with their investors. They don't want the same strategy, or there's actually no money in the business, but it seems like you're doing great because you're
all the time. Like, and you know what? And I know that story is not unique to me, Yvonne. Like, I know plenty of startups that, you know, are coming on my podcast to talk about something similar and how you can start up and start over and start again, you know. And people say to me, like, you know, would you take it back? And I, do you know what? It was so hard, but I wouldn't take it back. Wouldn't take any of that back. Like, it makes you so much more well-rounded as an entrepreneur. Like, what you learn when things don't go right, you know, when like all your growth is on the other side of failure. And do you know what? It's really hard to start something again. Trust me, it's so hard. But because hope and fear are kind of like travel partners. But as soon as you get to the other side of fear, you've done that. And if that doesn't work, you've got resilience to go, well, I know why that didn't work. So I have experience, I have lessons. I can help somebody else not do the same thing, you know, and make better decisions.
Yeah, I think that your learning is all on the side of failure, but we, as humans, we're just always thinking about, oh my God, people are going to be talking about me. They're going to say I failed. Nobody worth their, you know, nobody that's actually worth any value is going to be saying, oh my God, she failed. They're going to be like, she tried.
Yes. And that took me a good while to get my head around as well, because if you feel kind of down about something that like you put everything into, like, and it hasn't worked, because it's not like, this is not like a 6-month period, this was like an 8-year period, you know, as well. So, and like it was amazing. Like, you got to be in a room with people you may never have gotten to be in a room with and stuff, and it was so exciting. But like that, that's where you land at, oh no, like, what are people gonna say? And like, no one cares. But even if they do care, it's like, what have you tried?
Exactly. What have you tried? But you also had such an interesting story about a male skincare product.
Oh yeah.
I love this, and the market research and all that. Tell me about this. Tell me about Brave, isn't it?
Brave, yeah. So I said to myself, I was like, I'll never do a startup again. But that's actually because you want to be touching madness. But turns out I was like, oh, actually would love to do another one again. So I decided, I was like, right, you know, on the women's side of things, I was like, I feel like I need a bit of a break from that. You know, I was like, but I want to start a research in the men's market. I was like, I'd seen a couple of male cosmetics brands that had come out, and I was following them really closely. And I think when I'm interested in something, I'm like a dog with a bone, and go down those rabbit holes, and I like doing that research. So I decided, I started looking into this market, and I was like, God, this is really interesting. And it's a smaller market, but it's a very, what is it like an unmet need? And so I decided, it was 2 years ago, and I got into one of the programs, New Frontiers Phase 2. So I'd got a bit of money and I started to research. So I started to interview men. So this is where you don't spend money. Okay, so this on the research, right? So I got my, sort of survey questions together, put it out to all the guys I knew, everyone, and asked them would they give me a dig out and do that survey. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to start. So I got like 500, but then I was done in-depths. So it's like qualitative and quantitative research. So I started doing the in-depth. So people I thought like might be my market, maybe I'd interview like 40 or 50 of them. So I just couldn't get over, like, and this is why I would say to anyone starting a business, I think this book is the mom test. And it's like, because when you tell people your idea, everybody in your network is going to go, that's amazing. Oh my God, I love that. Where when you start doing your research, it'll test your assumptions to see, oh, I was right, or way off. So I was, coming from my background in beauty, I was like, I know that I want this to be unreal. I want to be luxury. I was like, I want it to be like the Tom Ford of Ireland. It's going to be amazing. These
and
ingredients.
Skincare for men.
I was like, it's going to be unreal.
Yeah.
And then, well, it was kind of originally, it was like I was looking into the cosmetics end. So maybe like a sort of a camouflage or a tinted moisturizer. I was looking at all the markets that were doing something like that. That's kind of where I started with it. And then like I started interviewing guys and like, I was like, so tell me about your skin type. And they were like, rough. I was like, what? Okay. And then there was, I was like, and what? Tell me about the products like you might use on your skin.
Nivea.
War. It was like, and they'd be like running off. They'd be like, hang on a sec now. They'd bring me back a bar of soap. Like, this is actually the one I'm using. And it was like any influencer shopper, whether it was the housemate or the auntie when they were 14 or the mother or the wife, there was someone else that went, here, you use that. And they would stick to it and they wouldn't change. And I remembered that about how men shopped. When I was in Mac, like men would just come in and be like, they'll also like sets. So men would come in and be like, I want to get this, like loads of funny stories about Mac, but like they'd come in and be like, my wife wears kind of similar to what you have on, but not as much. I was like, oh, okay. And would it be the expert? Like, would it be this kind of brown? No, that one. But men like to just quick, and they like to buy sets. So if you gave them a 1, 2 and a 3, they'd be delighted with
themselves.
That. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I learned so much like about doing that research. Could literally be a documentary. It was so funny, and I was like, I'm way off with this. This needs to be like something really simple and something easy. But I mean, it's still in the pipeline. It's not developed, but I do know what I would like to bring out with Brave, because it's but this is the thing, like even as much as I know about that space and the beauty industry, like my assumptions were off, because I thought that this would be something that's just like luxury and the best of ingredients and all. No, can still have the best ingredients, but it was something that was way more simple. It was actually became a brand for men who don't have a clue about their skin, and be okay with that, like not intimidating, just grand.
And kind of middle of the range price, I think. If you just said to them, listen, this is actually good for your skin, it's middle of the range price, use this. Yeah. There is actually a market there for it. I know my husband goes into stores and he's just like, oh yeah, just pick up that one. There's L'Oreal something or the other.
Even like, light market research, walk into, any booth, any type of like boots, in Liffey Valley or something, you have a sea of women's products and you have a shelf of men's, and they even say for men on them, just for men, L'Oreal for men, Nivea for men. I'm like, okay. But like there was so much research there, but I did have to pause for a bit. So, some people are like, would I pick it back up? I feel like,
did you win an award for this one as well?
No, just Glissed. But thanks though.
Yeah.
Maybe one
day. But you did get into, did you say you got into New Frontiers with it? That's a big deal.
Yeah. I've actually done, I think I've done every accelerator program in Ireland now between the two. Because I think they're a great way to learn, and they're a great way for people who, if you have some kind of business and you need the mentorship, and you're also going to be working with entrepreneurs at your stage, and it will help you kind of get like, just what's the next step, just get from A to B. I suppose from with a tech business and a consumer business, very different in terms of with the tech, you kind of have the luxury of building an MVP. And what I mean by that is you could kind of put up a landing page for cheap enough. You could try and get sign-ups, generate a bit of traction. You can kind of test the market a bit to see, where you kind of can't really, you need to get some kind of prototype. But, cosmetics are different. You sort of can't really just make one MVP. Like you kind of have to sort of make a few, and so there's a bit more upfront cost there, is what I'm understanding. But the margin is very different in the beauty space than it is in the tech space. That's another thing. I mean, very different. Yeah.
What would you say to someone now that like is in a business and they'd love to start, but they're like, oh, I'm not sure about this, or they're just afraid?
I would say, don't be afraid, because how would you feel if you didn't do it? And just start something and see where you land. And if that's too overwhelming, just go back to basics and just put a little survey together that will cost you nothing. And don't be afraid to ask, you know, your WhatsApp groups, your friends, X, even Instagram. I've been helping one of my coach friends do this recently, and you know, it will reveal something that you don't know, and that could be the key to where you go with the business. Or you might decide, I don't want to do it, but do that bit first.
I think market research is key. I remember a friend of mine who's got a tech company. It's doing really well. And I remember with my products, he said to me, Yvonne, make sure you do your market research, because I didn't, you know, I had to go back. He had created a product and then he kind of had to create a second one. So I was like, okay, I'll do my market research. And I paid somebody, which I probably could have done it. But not knowing, when you're doing something for the first time, you just think you have to pay for these things. But anyway, I did it. But one of the things that was interesting was I did the gratitude box, which is our gratitude practice box, and all the steps in it. So they just got a box, but they only got 7 cards. So they only could do it for a week.
Okay.
But I wanted to do the market research on them doing it for the week and seeing how they felt. The market research was actually amazing, right? But there was one part in it where it was like, okay, so you write your date on the card, write what you're grateful for. A tip is if you've written your gratitude, you could take a WhatsApp picture and send it to someone. Like, so if I did my grateful for you this morning, I'd say, hey, Louise, you're my grateful this morning. So it's like your gratitude practice, but one thing a day. But because I was so invested in The Secret, the book, I told everybody the last step was writing thank you, thank you, thank you. Because, you know, that's what The Secret does. It always doesn't say thank you, thank you, thank you. But I was like, oh, I don't love this because I feel like I'm copying, but this is the way it's always done. So anyway, we went out and we got our market research done, and the people hated the thank you, thank you, thank you part. And I would have put that in as in just thinking that that's just the way people do it. So it's so important.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just amazing. Some of the feedback was like, one girl, she was like playing a violin, and before she did her gratitude, she recorded herself, and then she did her grateful, and then when she did it after her grateful, she made no mistakes, where she'd made mistakes in the music before. I think her mind was focused, and like, did people, different walks of life of people, like with disabilities, a divorce, or even older men. So I was like, there's a good, but then then one guy in his 60s, they asked him, because we obviously need to understand what people will pay for this sort of stuff.
Exactly.
One guy said €5.
Okay.
And I was like, €5, you can hardly get a coffee in Dublin for €5.
This is it.
But that wasn't, I realized that a 60-year-old man is less likely to be my target market. It's women. Women are more into this kind of stuff. But I agree with you that, like, you need to do your market research, but you don't necessarily need to spend a fortune on it.
No, and like it's all about, you know, finding that like sweet spot customer. So, you know, probably like you probably have a demographic now of like the women of an age group that that might shop here. You know, you'll have a demographic that is like, that's the kind of people that you're targeting. So, you know, like say, that's why, say with Glissed, for example, like even we kept doing research because, you know, we wanted to pivot. We wanted to understand. We wanted to eventually, and we did build this, but we never released it. Was just software for freelance beauty professionals just to help them. We were like, forget about the customers. Enough of that. We were like, let's just be, you know, let's just build software. So we would have the makeup artists and hairdressers in a group, and we would have somebody come in who like would actually just from a different company and do the survey in case it was too biased with us. And, you know, so because we're like, how are they operating? And like, it was all paper diaries. So we're like, would you use an app or something that's just the management of your accounts and all, to be going around with bags of receipts. It's still a bit like that now, but you know, so do you know what I mean? So it was kind of like, so we even say when we had, you know, we were, you know, in an accelerator and all at that stage, and we had some money, like we were still like, you know, we were trying to figure out like, how do we make this even better? So I think even the starting piece is market research or product market fit, but then it's also really understanding your sweet spot customer. You know, it's for, even say with Brave, it's like, it's not, you know, it can't be, it's not skincare for like every single man of every single age. You know what I mean? Because like people who are maybe really into their skincare would never buy that. Do you know what I mean? If that, you know, so it was really understanding like who are you going after? And I think that's the thing as well, that will also reveal itself as time goes on with businesses.
Yeah, and yeah. I'm actually, like, I launched Pause Penny in November 2022, but then I had the twins afterwards.
Right.
So I was on maternity leave then for 2023, and I was back to work in 2024. I'm now just starting to understand the customer, just starting to understand. But one thing that I noticed recently was, and I was like, I wonder, because when you're in business, there's so many things that you don't know. You're just like, oh, I haven't got a clue. So I was like, is a repeat customer better than a new customer, right? Because what I've started to see is lots of repeat. There's new as well. But then I Googled it, and Google says like it's easier to convert a repeat customer.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So that's like the lifetime value of a customer. So say with the business, we were like, how many times will someone get their hair done in a year? How many times will they get a hair and a makeup? So we were trying to figure out all those kind of stats, which were useful then when it came to, you know, doing your marketing and doing your Facebook. So say I can understand, like, so just off the top of my head, right, I know that I'm going to buy that for a present for someone who needs it. So that's I'm a repeat customer then for you, because I'm like, and I'm thinking like, I know people that would love that, and I might, you know, so that's where I'll buy as a repeat, you know. So then it's like, you know, what else could I kind of bring into that part of the business as well, you know, because you're adding value with your audience and the stuff you talk about on the podcast, but then it's like, you know, and then this is a bonus. But like, you know, that it's like this beautiful gift to give somebody.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's gifted a lot, and it's used in corporates actually a lot. But that's interesting. So what are you manifesting now? Well, tell us about your podcast.
Okay, so
when that's starting?
It's starting in a couple of weeks, and I'm interviewing founders and startups like me who have had, you know, who've had sort of, you know, like similar to myself, like had, you know, gone on to raise money and won awards and done all of that, and then maybe things didn't work out as well as they would have hoped, and that they are not afraid to like share their story. It's okay to fail, it's okay to start again, and like, let's, you know, rethink the whole thing, and you know, to be hopeful about it and be like, what's next? So that's really what it's about. And also the kind of like few funny crack startup shenanigan stories along the way as well. Like, I mean, I have a few I won't spoil them now, but yeah, definitely a few funny pictures of it. A few funny photographs. I have my phone of like gang of us from Accelerate. We're all meant to be somewhere one day, and there's this photograph and we're all just dying hungover. I remember we called it Ireland's future. We were like, but you know what, it was really an amazing time. As hard as it was a wonderful time. So that's really what I want to share, those stories on the podcast. And I want to be able to, as I said, my sort of mission would be to, you know, open that conversation up. You know, don't be afraid. It doesn't all have to be raising money and doing deadly and being in the paper. Like, there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes too, you know. And so that they're the kind of startups that I'm interviewing, and founders who are amazing, and yeah, like, and that's kind of my mission. Is I'd like to be able to like work with entrepreneurs, whether they're at an early stage or they're at even a burnout stage, you know, because I would like to be able to help somebody like me, you know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, and we met for coffee. This is just the listeners, and like, we're supposed to have a half an hour coffee and 2.5 hours later. But I think that people, if they're absolutely starting a tech startup, should engage in your services. Because even me, I was like, Louise, I'm going to do an app. I'm going to have an app, and basically, you know, I'm going to have affirmations on it every day. And there's just so much that you were just like, no, like it was so true. You said something to me like, you open about 3 or 4 apps a day, Yvonne. I can guarantee you they're like Instagram, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and maybe one more. And I was like, oh my God, she's hit the TikTok, hit the nail on the head. But you're not actually opening other ones. So I think you've got even though you started out in beauty, you know so much about tech and how it operates, that to be able to pick your brain is absolutely invaluable, and invaluable to any of your, because I think you said you're going to start a coaching.
Yeah. So I've been coaching entrepreneurs. So I did a coaching diploma over lockdown, actually. So it was always a space I was really interested in. And over lockdown, I did a diploma, and I absolutely felt so aligned with that work. I was like, how do I bring that into the sort of the entrepreneurial space? Because there's loads of mentors. So the difference between a mentor and a coach. So a mentor, I think, will be someone who has domain expertise, and they probably have a pen in their hand. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
So, a whiteboard and a pen, they're telling you what to do. A coach is going to be able to sort of help you possibly unlock your potential, work on your belief system as well. But obviously, if it's somebody like me that has gone and done all of that in business, that's how you can we can bring the business coaching piece into it as well, But yeah, so that's I'm starting that business. I have a few clients at the moment, but I'm actually going to expand and start that business as well. So
it's amazing. So where can people find you now?
Well, they can find me on Instagram now, or on LinkedIn. So on Instagram, it's just at Lulu Dunner. And on LinkedIn, it's just Louise Dunne.
And we're gonna get some updates Jeannie Mac, updates on LinkedIn about your podcast journey. We talked about this earlier, because people want to know.
Yeah.
They want to know, how did you start your podcast? How are you going to start it?
Yeah.
Where did you go? What did you do? How did you find your guests? Like, how did you get your name? What microphone are you using? The basic stuff, but when someone's done it, you're starting that journey, so it's great to share that.
Yeah, I will share. I was in London a few weeks ago, and I did a course, like the type of learner that I am. I'm like, I could buy a microphone and plug it in and start talking, and that is ultimately what I'm going to be doing. But I wanted to learn end to end. I wanted to know everything about the production, and really how to make something that's of value to people, with that I can bring my own skill set into it as well, and that's like a good listen. If I was thinking of myself back then. So yeah, but that is what I'm going to do. You've encouraged me to do the journey, to document it, so I will.
Yeah, definitely document behind the scenes, because people just love that.
Okay.
Well, I do anyway, and I know other people do, because the reason why I had Gary Fox on my podcast was because so many people were asking me, how do you start a podcast? What are your tips? And like you said this before, that people ask you for coffees all the time. Yeah. We can't meet everybody for coffees all the time, even though I'd love to. I'd love to, but you can't. Do you know? So like, people probably ask you the same coaching questions, but maybe they might not be able to afford your services or something like that. It's great to have a platform to share. Okay, this is what I'm doing, and sharing that journey, and then people go back. Because then you've also built up that people are like, oh, Louise is going to start a podcast, and they followed you from the get-go. So you're building up that following of, then when you launch your podcast, you've already got people to listen.
Yeah. Exactly, because that's it. Like, over the years, like, people would always reach out, and I do think there's a great sense of paying it forward in the startup community, and even in general, when it comes to people in business. Like, people will go for coffees and all of that, but as you said, you can't meet everyone. So it's great to be able to have a place of information where you can go and you can click on an episode and be like, oh yeah, that's the top 10 questions to ask an investor, or not, or whatever, and then if they want to work with me individually, if they want to work with me in a group, like, I'm there for that as well,
And I think it's actually a great idea, your podcast idea, because if you think about it, you only ever learn from the mistakes. Absolutely. So you even hear saying today, like if you take all the things that you did really well, like, you built a database of beauty experts. That is worth so much. It's like what people say, your email subscriber list is actually your value, but you didn't maybe at the time realize the importance of the investor. You might have realized but you've given people this knowledge that, like, one of the failures, which is not even a failure, one of the learnings was know your investor and know that you're a good fit. And even if you do the work, sometimes it still doesn't work. What doesn't work out. But I think people need to hear the stories of the shit when the shit hits the fan, because that's where we're actually going to learn. So I think it's an amazing podcast idea.
Thank you so much, because I do think it's a bit raw for me and it's vulnerable, but I just think, like, you know what, like, it's okay. And there's loads of success stories out there. They're everywhere. Like, so I think that it's time to just peel back, get under the bonnet a little bit more, and, like, talk about the real stuff that happens actually, and save people a lot of money and time in the end.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Whoop
Yvonne.
whoop, another manifestation
Woohoo.
queen. Thank you, Louise.